Snow fell in slow, deliberate sheets as Keanu Reeves stepped out of the car, his boots sinking softly into the white ground. The driver didn't wait for thanks. He nodded once, eyes avoiding Keanu's, then drove off, leaving behind the low hum of an engine fading into silence. The house stood alone at the edge of the town, an old wooden structure with darkened beams, its roof heavy with snow, its windows dim like tired eyes that had seen too much. Keanu had come to Russia for quiet, not fame, not attention, just distance. Distance from noise, from expectations, from the constant weight of being recognized. The house had been advertised as peaceful and private, and at first glance, it delivered exactly that. No neighbors in sight, no traffic, only wind moving through tall, frozen pine trees that surrounded the property like silent guards. As he unlocked the door, the wood creaked in protest, as if the house itself questioned his arrival. Inside, the air was cold and stale. Dust floated in the weak light filtering through the windows. The furniture was old but sturdy, untouched for what felt like years. Keanu set his bag down slowly, taking in the space. There was nothing luxurious here, just a table, 2 chairs, a narrow staircase, and walls marked with cracks that told stories without words. That first evening, he lit a small fire and sat quietly, listening. The house made sounds, soft thumps, distant groans from shifting wood, but nothing threatening. Still, an unease settled in his chest. It wasn't fear, it was the sense of being noticed. The next morning, Keanu walked into the nearby town. Conversation stopped as he passed, not abruptly, but subtly, voices lowering, eyes turning away too late. A shopkeeper accepted his money without a smile. A woman pulled her child closer when she noticed him. No one spoke directly to him, yet the message was clear. You are not one of us. By the third day, the silence felt heavier. Footprints appeared in the snow around the house that weren't his. At night, distant laughter echoed briefly, then vanished. Once, he spotted someone standing near the tree line, watching. When Keanu met their gaze, the figure disappeared behind the trees. He told himself it was nothing. New place, new culture, new misunderstandings. But as darkness fell again and the house settled into its nightly groan, Keanu realized the peace he had come for was an illusion. The quiet wasn't empty, it was loaded, waiting, and whatever waited beyond. Those walls did not welcome him. The house, the town, the silence itself, everything seemed to agree on one thing. He did not belong here. The knock came just after midnight, slow, heavy, deliberate. Keanu sat upright in his chair, the fire in the hearth reduced to glowing embers. He hadn't been sleeping. The house never truly allowed it. Another knock followed, louder this time, rattling the thin wooden door. He stood, calm but alert, and walked toward the entrance. When he opened the door, cold air rushed in, carrying snow and the sharp scent of cigarettes. 3 men stood outside. Their coats were thick, their faces expressionless, eyes hard and measuring. One of them smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You live here now? The tallest one asked, his accent heavy, his tone mocking rather than curious. Keanu nodded. I'm renting the house. The man stepped forward without invitation, boots crossing the threshold. The others followed. Snow melted onto the wooden floor as they looked around, unimpressed, as if the place belonged to them already. One man laughed quietly, shaking his head. Foreigners always choose strange places, he said, running his hand along the wall. You think no one notices? Keanu didn't respond. Silence had always been his armor. They asked questions: where he came from, why he was here, how long he planned to stay. But they weren't really asking. Each word was layered with accusation, with challenge. One of them mocked his accent when he spoke. Another deliberately mispronounced his name, laughing when corrected. You think you are important, the tallest man said, circling Keanu slowly. Here, you are nothing. The disrespect sharpened. They criticized how he dressed, how he spoke, how he avoided eye contact. One man leaned too close, invading his space, breathing out smoke as if daring him to react. When Keanu asked them to leave, the room fell silent, then erupted in laughter. This is our town, the man said, pointing toward the door. You stay here only because we allow it. For a moment, tension stretched thin, like glass about to crack. Keanu felt it, the instinct to defend, to push back. But he didn't. He met their stares evenly, his expression unreadable. Eventually, bored by his calm, they turned toward the door. The tallest man paused before leaving. Be careful, he said quietly. This house remembers who disrespects it. The door slammed shut. Their footsteps faded into the snow. Keanu stood alone again, the fire nearly dead. The house creaked, louder than before, as if reacting to what had just happened. He didn't feel anger. He felt something colder. The message was clear. The disrespect had only begun. Morning brought no comfort. The sky hung low and gray, pressing down on the town like a lid sealed too tight. Keanu pulled his coat closer as he walked toward the market square, snow crunching beneath his boots. He told himself the visit from the night before meant nothing, just intimidation, empty threats. Yet the air felt different now, charged, as if the town itself had decided to speak. He felt it before he saw it. Whispers followed him, not behind his back, around him. Voices slid through the cold air, sharp and intentional. When he reached the square, conversations didn't stop this time. They grew louder. "That's him," someone said. "He thinks he can hide in that house." Keanu paused near a small cafe, sensing eyes on him from every direction. A group of men stood near the center of the square, the same faces from the night before, joined by others. Their confidence had grown. They weren't visitors now. They were hosts. One stepped forward and raised his voice. "You insult our town," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You come here. You disrespect our ways." Keanu looked at him calmly. "I've done nothing." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Someone lifted a phone and began recording. Then another. Screens pointed at him like weapons, framing him as something to be exposed, humiliated, reduced. "You think silence makes you innocent?" a woman shouted. "You look down on us." Words came faster now, accusations stacked on top of one another, each more exaggerated than the last. They claimed he mocked local customs, refused respect, acted superior. None of it was true, but truth had no value here. The crowd wanted a target, and he stood alone. A man shoved his shoulder lightly, not enough to be called an attack, just enough to send a message. Circle tightened. Keanu remained still, breathing steady, his expression unchanged. Inside, though, the weight of it pressed down hard. Not fear, not rage, something heavier, disappointment. He recognized this moment. The way crowds fed on permission, the way cruelty multiplied when no one objected. A child stared at him from behind her mother's coat, eyes wide and confused. That hurt more than the shouting. "Leave," someone yelled. "Go back where you came from," telling them who he was, why he was there, how wrong they were. But he knew it wouldn't matter. This wasn't about understanding. It was about dominance. The crowd began to disperse as quickly as it had formed, satisfied. The men exchanged looks that promised more to come. Phones were lowered, but the damage was already done. Stories would spread by nightfall, twisted, sharpened, repeated until they became fact. Keanu walked away slowly, every step measured. He didn't run. He didn't look back. The silence returned, but now it carried something else with it. Shame, though not his. As the house came back into view through the falling snow, he understood something clearly for the first time. This place didn't just want him gone. It wanted him broken. The house greeted him with a long, hollow creak as Keanu pushed the door shut behind him. Outside, the wind howled, throwing snow against the walls as if trying to force its way in. Inside, the silence was thick, no longer passive, no longer observant. It pressed against him, demanding a response. He removed his coat slowly and set it down, hands steady despite the storm building in his chest. For days he had absorbed the hostility, the disrespect, the lies. He had stayed calm, believing patience would drain their cruelty of power. But patience, he now understood, had only been mistaken for weakness. Footsteps approached the house. Not one set, several. The door rattled before the knock even came. This time, it wasn't polite or cautious. It was aggressive, confident. Keanu didn't wait. He opened the door himself. The same men stood there, joined by two more. Snow clung to their boots and coats, but their eyes burned with purpose. They stepped inside without asking, spreading through the room like they owned it. One kicked the chair aside. Another glanced upstairs, already claiming territory. "You've made trouble," the tallest one said. "People are talking." Keanu looked at him directly for the first time. His voice was low, calm, but unyielding. "You came to my home. You lied about me. This ends now." The room went still. They hadn't expected that. The shift, the certainty. "You think words can protect you?" One man sneered, stepping closer. Keanu didn't move back. "No," he said, "truth can." He spoke then, not loudly, not angrily, but with precision. He named what they were doing: intimidation, manipulation, fear, dressed up as authority. He described their behavior exactly as it was, stripping it of power by refusing to exaggerate or flinch. Each sentence landed like a weight. The men exchanged uneasy glances. This wasn't the reaction they wanted. They wanted rage, pleading, panic. Instead, they got clarity. "You're afraid," Keanu continued. "Not of me. of being seen for who you are. The tallest man's jaw tightened. For a moment, it seemed like violence might erupt. But something stopped it. Maybe the steadiness in Keanu's eyes. Maybe the realization that crossing this line would expose them completely. The house groaned suddenly, a deep crack echoing through the walls as wind slammed against it. The sound felt final, almost judgmental. One by one, the men backed away. The tallest lingered at the door, anger mixed with uncertainty. "This isn't over," he said. Keanu met his gaze. "It is." The door closed. Footsteps retreated. Silence returned, but this time, it felt different, lighter, controlled. Keanu stood alone, heart steady, breath even. He hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't thrown a punch. Yet something fundamental had shifted. The house no longer felt hostile. It felt aligned. The breaking point hadn't destroyed him. It had revealed him. Before dawn, the storm softened. Snow still fell, but gently now, as if the night had exhausted its anger. Keanu packed his bag in silence, folding his clothes with care, leaving the room exactly as he had found it. The house watched him, not with suspicion this time, but with something close to respect. He paused at the doorway, looking back once. The cracked walls, the cold floor, the quiet corners that had held tension and truth alike. This place had tested him. It hadn't won. Outside, the world was pale and still. The road leading away from the house was barely visible beneath fresh snow, but it was there, clear enough. As he walked, his footprints marked the ground behind him, temporary, already beginning to soften at the edges. He carried no anger with him, no need for revenge. What had happened would linger without his effort. Stories always do. In the town, people would talk. Some would feel satisfaction, others would feel unease. A few, very few, would feel shame. The videos would circulate, but so would questions. The lies would weaken under their own weight. They always did. Keanu reached the edge of the property and stopped, letting the cold air fill his lungs. He had come seeking silence and found confrontation instead, yet in facing it, he had reclaimed something more valuable than peace. His dignity remained untouched. The house stood empty again as the light of morning crept over its roof. Snow covered the marks of conflict, but not the memory of it. That would stay etched into the walls, whispered in the quiet, carried by those who knew they had gone too far. Keanu didn't look back as he continued down the road. He didn't need to. What mattered was forward movement without fear, departure without defeat. Behind him, the town returned to its routine. Ahead of him, the world waited, and somewhere between those two places, a lesson settled in the cold air. Disrespect could wound, but it could never define him.